When seating your dog and preparing to take your measurements, put the dog's tail between its back legs so that it sits here in front. This way, it'll be comfortable for the dog's spine and the tail will not get bent in the back. Also, when you seat the dog in your chair, when it's finished, you want to make sure that the tail again is between the legs. First, you need to take your dog and place him into a right-angled corner such as this to ensure good support for the dog's back and to keep him straight. First measurement will be to raise your dog with his back flat against the wall and his left shoulder here against this cabinet, and hold his feet in front of him in this begging type position at a comfortable level. Don't raise it too high because that'll put strain on the shoulder, and too low will let the dog fall forward. Then take your measurement right there where the hand is, and in this case it's about 22.5 inches. It also helps if you have somebody with you to help hold the dog and stabilize the dog. The next measurement is from the wall to the outer edge here of the chest. And in this case, it is approximately 10.5 inches. Then your final measurement is the thickness of your dog from left to right across. And in this case, Bailey is about 7.5 inches. Those are the three measurements you need, and then I'll be showing you next how to transpose them onto your templates and cut your chair. After taking your measurements of your dog, you're going to want to maybe sit down with a piece of paper and sketch out what you're going to be doing to ensure that you buy enough lumber when you go to the lumber yard. Also, it'll help you visualize maybe a little bit better exactly what you're going to be building and how it's going to look. So what we're going to do now is draw out the side pieces of the chair. First thing you're going to want to do is maybe jot down at the top here your dimensions. When we measured Bailey, 22.5 inches tall, 10.5 inches deep through his chest, and 7.5 inches wide through his shoulders. So in drawing your side pieces, the first thing you're going to want to do is draw a small circle to represent the cross piece that's going to go across and actually hold the dog's front legs up. And that's represented by this circle. In the sample chair I'm going to build, I'm going to use a 3-inch piece of PVC pipe, so I'm going to represent that with the number 3 to represent 3 inches. First measurement is the height measurement, and remember it's 22.5 inches to the top of this cross piece. So what we're going to do is extend this line across like this and then make a vertical line representing 22.5 inches. This here being the bottom of your side piece. Next, you're going to want to extend the front part of the wood to help hold this cross piece. So we're going to add about 1.5 inches here. And you're also going to want to put about 1.5 inches on the top to make a nice chin rest and to help hold their head vertical. So factor in 1.5 inches above this support piece. We have 10.5 inches to the front this side here, which is where the chest of your dog will rest. So we're going to draw a line back here representing 10.5 inches. Also, you're going to want to add about 1/2 inch to factor in for the foam backing, which is going to be against the back of your chair. So this now creates the back measurement. So we're going to add 1/2 here. So our 22.5 inch height plus the 1.5 inch allowance is going to give us a total height of 24 inches and 1.5 inches for the front support, plus 3 inches for your cross piece, plus 10.5 is 15.5 inches. You may want to add just maybe a little bit more to give your dog a little bit of room here. So what we're going to do is make this a total of 16 inches. So this is 11 plus the 3 is 14, 15 and a half, so we're going to make this 16 inches. So our two side pieces will have dimensions of 16 across by 24 inches tall. Also note that I'm making a U-shaped drawing here. This slot is going to be cut into the side piece, which will allow your support bar to actually drop into the right height. Remember, you're going to need two pieces 24 inches by 16. Next, once you've done the dimensions for your two side pieces, you need to factor in the width of your back piece. Again, we have 24 inches tall. We know that dimension from the two side pieces, so I can just write that in. But we need to factor in the width here. First thing you're going to want to do is factor in the thickness of the wood you're using. In this case, for the sample chair, I'm using 1/2 inch wood. So I'm just going to draw two vertical lines and write in 1/2, 1/2. Next, I'm going to factor in the width of the foam, which is going to be on both side pieces, which is going to attach here to the back. So I'm going to add in another 1/2 inch on both sides. I also advise you to add in maybe an additional 1/2 inch to maybe, if your dog's not really big, maybe about a 3/8 inch factor, to give the dog some room to maneuver and rest comfortably in the chair. So in this case, let's add in 3/8 of an inch plus our 7.5 inch measured width of our dog. So what we have here basically is 7.5 for your dog, 3/8 for a little bit of comfort, plus 1 inch for the wood and the foam on each side. That gives us a total of 7.5, 8, 9.5, and 3/8. So we can call this 9 7/8 wide. So our back dimensions will be 24 by 9 7/8. Once we've done this on paper, we can now transport these dimensions to our piece of plywood. It'll also allow you to determine just how much you need to purchase. In this case, if we went and bought a 4 by 4 inch piece of, a 4 by 4 foot piece of plywood, I know that this should transpose almost identically to that plywood, and we will not overbuy. Calculate your base. You want to take your dimensions that you've obtained for your side and your back, and these are guidelines that will help make a stable base. You can add or subtract depending on the size of your dog, but I found that these dimensions should give you a very stable platform and comfort for your dog. Your base will be a rectangular piece of wood. And we know our sides are 16 inches across, and if we want to just draw what the basic chair will look like here on the paper, we add 16 inches here for the base and 9 7/8 for the back. You're probably going to want 2 to 3 inches on either side here to give a stable lip on the front and back. So let's make this 3 inches here and 3 inches here. That gives me a total of 22 inches wide. And I would suggest about 10 inches for the support brackets, which will come up like this. So we're going to add 10 inches here, and about 3 inches at this end for your wheels. So let's make 3 inches here. About 10 inches over here on this side, and about another 2 inches, say, for your handle. So we have, let's round this off here to 10, 10, 2, 10, and 3. So this becomes 35 inches. So our base piece will be 22 inches wide by 35 inches long. Using these dimensions, we can see that a 48-inch square piece of plywood should fit perfectly for all 4 pieces. Once you've taken your measurements, you may want to lay out all the items you're going to need, and I've laid them out here on this piece of wood that we're going to be using so that you can help plan the tools and the items that you're going to have to purchase. First, you're going to probably want to get a straight edge to help do your measurements and draw straight lines. A good pencil to mark all your lines that you're going to be making. You're going to need 3 types of screws. You're going to need a couple screws that are no thicker than the wood that you're using for your base. So if you use a 1/2 inch piece of lumber for your base like I have here, you're going to want to get some screws that are no longer than a 1/2 inch. These will be used for the side support brackets because you're going to screw these into the base, so you want these screws not to go past the wood and dig into your floor. So each of these brackets has 3 holes in it, so I would recommend getting enough. I'm going to only use 2 brackets. If you want to use 4 brackets, you'd need a total of 12 screws. For these 2 brackets, I'm only going to need 6. You get about a dozen screws that are no longer than double the thickness of your wood. You'll be using this to put in the cross piece support lumber on either side to keep it from falling out. And you'll see that a little bit later as we do the project. And finally, some longer screws to hold the side pieces to the base. I'd recommend getting screws at least twice to maybe 3 times the thickness of the wood. So in this case we're using 1/2 inch plywood, so I would go up to maybe about 1 1/4 to 1 1/2 inch screws. A clamp will be very helpful to help hold the pieces together when you're doing some cutting. A drill, a jigsaw to make your cuts, measuring tape, paint for the for your finished chair to help make it easy to clean. The brackets that we talked about earlier, these are inexpensive shelf brackets that you can get at most hardware stores, probably for under $1 a piece. And they're just formed sheet metal. Measuring tape, some wheels. These are small little casters, again for maybe $2.50 to $3 at your local hardware store. You'll need 2. Small handle, a little inexpensive metal handle so that you can easily move the chair, which I'll show you at the end how that works. A couple felt furniture pads to stick at the bottom of your base to keep from scratching your floor. And most importantly, some safety goggles, because you are going to be working around power tools. I got a scrap piece here of 3-inch PVC pipe, which we will use for the cross piece. Again, you can buy a full-length piece. They come in 10-foot lengths at the hardware store. Some stores may cut a smaller piece off for you. In our case, we're going to need